Yeah, good afternoon everybody. It's 3 o'clock and it seems like everybody is here having lunch or something, as late lunch. We just had it and it was quite well. Fotis asked me to speak about multilingual websites, especially as Fotis and I work a lot together with K2 and other things to make it possible to have multilingual websites for Greek people, which you also have English. I'm from Munich. We typically have German and English as our websites, but also there is quite a lot of other languages that people use, and that was the origin why I started all this JoomFish project thing. Today I don't want to speak too much about the JoomFish project itself. However, you're welcome to ask questions afterwards or about the project and details. What I want to do today is to speak a bit more about what you need to watch out if you start your multilingual website as a project. So not about going how the technical details are, but more about the other details you need to do in order to get your stuff done. The multilingual websites are in general a challenge because it's another dimension of your website. You typically have a situation that adding a new language does not end by just adding the translations to that. However, it's a very easy task if you prepare yourself a little bit and you think about what is needed beforehand and not jumping into these things directly. The first part of the presentation, I'd like to give you a brief overview about the understanding what you need in terms of what is important for you to think about ahead and to think about these items for your site. And the second part, we will discuss about some best practices, how you can solve these issues and how you can overcome problems which you might encounter during the way of doing your website. The first thing is a very important part and a very important question. A lot of people tell me, oh, JoomFish is not an automated translation tool. No, it's not. It's never been intended to be. But yeah, I just want to present my website in a second language and people should be able to just use that in a second language and say, yeah, that's nice, but what do you do if you present something on your website wrong? Like, I translate everything into Greek and then the whole sentence is a totally different meaning. So how should that work? This is not really working. So the question here is not about the language, not about the translation. It's about what the professional translators call localization. So they really try to adapt content not only towards a specific language, but also to a different culture. The best example of that one is the Asian culture, which has a very screamy way of presenting websites. If you look at websites in Japan or in Taiwan or Thailand even, they are rosa, they are yellow, screaming, they are tiny, they are not very big, they are not like our screens with 1024 or even bigger screens, no, they're still 800, 600. So their culture of understanding the information is totally different, and therefore they have a totally different interpretation and a totally different presentation of the website. If you just want to translate your site, let's say from English into Chinese or from Greek into Chinese for your Chinese market, you might do some big failures in the way you approach your customers over there. And then you've been surprised why you're not selling your goods or you're not having not good analytics on your website. And quite likely it's just only dependent or related to things like that. You need to decide beforehand and really identify what you need for your website. A lot of customers of ours are discussing with us, we want to translate the whole website, and then they come to the point, but this part we don't need. And this is exactly the point. You don't need all the information for all websites in these areas. So think about the whole culture, think about the whole website project, and try to identify these points. Yeah. The next thing related to localization is definitely the question about your website not being only information in the type of text. It's also your images, it's also your CSS styles. For example, if you translate a website into an Arabic language, you quite likely have a different way how the website is being read. Now, not left to right, but right to left. So this changes a lot in your layout. Ensure that you're not having issues because of this flip in the layout. Sometimes the buttons you have are all of a sudden saying something different, like the first button is not saying yes, it's all of a sudden saying no. So people get quite confused if they see these kind of things. Another element, what you need is to think about the technical part of the website. There are a lot of projects thinking about how we can implement multilingual websites. One very simple thing is now implemented in Joomla 1.6. This is you actually add more and more content items which have a special language tag. Now, if you view this website in a specific language by using the Joomla 1.6 language selector, all the items which are not equivalent with these language tag and the language you selected are just being filtered out. So actually, this is something like you copying your website all over copying or duplicating your website with all the information you have and you need. But on the other side, you have situations that you do not have quite good control about what is the original saying, or is the original now changed? Do I need to change the translation as well? So this information can get out of sync. The JoomFish project, for example, this is just focusing on this translation process. So the big thing what we focus on is not the fact that we can translate something, but the fact that we know if the original was changed, we can show you, oh, you should maybe look at your translation. Maybe this translation is not up to date anymore and you need to update it as well. The real higher level of doing multilingual websites is to adapt your websites not only by having a nice translation of your site, but also having a good different style sheet, a good different layout, everything what fits to the other language or to the other culture. This is really a complicated thing to do because it requires you to think ahead of what you want to achieve, as well as how you're going to organize and maintain it in the future. It's quite complicated, and most of the companies don't really need that. Meanwhile, we have some of the template clubs which started to provide a switch which allows you to switch different template styles based on the language tag, which is, I think, a quite neat feature and can simplify this process quite a lot. So, yeah, it's your choice. You need to choose between your automatic translation, like Google Translate, if you want to give the control of your translation towards your customer, saying, you just translate, I just want to make sure that you can see the website in a different language. I don't really care if every word is right or wrong. I'm not 100% sure if you get the right information, but it's not important for what you show on the website. This can be good, for example, for a blogging website which just wants to ensure that the readers from other countries have the possibility to grab the overall information you present on the website. For a corporate website, I would definitely not recommend that because it's very easy that you have a misunderstanding in the wording. And it's a simple turnaround in the wording, and I've seen so many automated translations already which are just wrong that for me personally it's no choice. If I want to have a corporate website, I want to have that presented in other languages than the original language I planned it in. There needs to be a manual translation process. In the manual translation process, You have another big advantage, this is especially important for e-commerce websites. You can adapt your legal requirements to the other locale you have. For example, if you offer from Greece services and products to, let's say, Germany, you have a different specification for your product maybe in Germany because of the legal requirements, because of some technical requirement. Now, both are in the European Union, that's a bit easier. But if you think about you delivering a car here in Greece or in Germany, that's the same. But if you would like to deliver the same car into the UK, you have already a little issue. We'll come to that in a minute. So the important aspect from my perspective is that you really look at the website beforehand and think about what needs to be translated, what needs to be changed in the different translation, what needs to be localized, so adapted to the other culture, and maybe also what needs to be hidden, because some of the information you definitely do not want to show in a different language. After you did all that, you can actually start with building up your site. And it is not that complicated to do. Some examples I have now to show you some of the sites and show you the complexity of these sites and why it's sometimes possible to translate them or not. The information structure we'll touch briefly, as this is the key thing for your organization, and of course other information. So this website is fairly known here in Greece, I heard. But this is a sports news site. You have a lot of local information. Now the first question I asked myself when I saw this site, is this something which is of interest for someone else than in Greece? Well, yeah, it could be interesting for me if I live here as a German, that this site is maybe being translated. But would I be interested in all of the information of this site, or just the current news, or some specific information which is maybe in the relationship between Greece and Germany? So having such a site, it's very unlikely that you're going to translate this whole content, and you really should question what kind of information you like to give to the second group of audience you have and why. On the other side, a website like Klima, which is a product-based website, they present their corporation, they present their products and everything. And yes, of course, they do have translation from Greece to English, to German, to Romania, Turkish, and Russian. Yes, because that's where they have their subsidiaries. Maybe they do have some specific content in specific areas, but in general, they will translate most of their website content, which is fairly possible, and it's not a big deal for them, because they also do that for their brochures and other information they have for their customers. And if they do have a subsidiary in Russia, for example, it's also very easy for them to verify if the translation is right or wrong. Another example is this website, which is also a magazine website kind of style. But as you can see, it's quite important to understand. They translated into Chinese, into Taiwan, so they separated already the two country languages, which are not really separated, not from the language at least, and not politically, but yeah, kind of complex. And on the other side, they try to present the information more or less in the same structure. However, if you look at the menu, for example, you see that the size of the menu varies already quite a lot because of the character signs are being totally different. The size of words is totally different. So you need to be aware of these things in your template and allow for space to expand or to get down again for these websites and information. The difference, there's one topic which always pops up a lot. Why can't I just copy the website? Why can't I just have additional websites which present different information somewhere? in general, you can. The single website, which is one single resource of a site which brings you the information, focuses on the content of one language, of one country, of one system. If you try to have a multilingual website, it's not only the content you focus on, but it's also the information as a whole. Like you also think about, for example, the shop information, the events you present, or all other things. On the other side, it gets quite complicated if you try to translate forum posts. So there's an end somewhere. Be prepared. Be prepared for being to not try to get over the top. So it just does not help you if you try to worry every day about your missing translations. Yes, you will have missing translations as you're not being able to translate everything instantly when new information is being published on the original content. But you can do that afterwards. You can go on with these translations. You can move on with these information step by step. If it's logical for your user that the information you present is different in different countries or in different languages, go that path and present different information. Sometimes it's easier to separate the information completely instead of trying to translate just the bits and parts which are necessary for the one language, and the other language you try to avoid and hide these things again. In these kind of scenarios, it's much more simpler if you just separate both of them and you just have two different languages as articles or content within your Joomla system in two different sections and categories. You need to maintain these websites, and sometimes the organization needs to fit to your possibilities or your understanding of maintaining a site rather than to the technical capabilities of a tool like JoomFish. The last point is, for me, it's a really important point. Using all available elements, I mean use your menu structure, use your modules, use the template itself, use your graphics, use everything what you have to really give the user a different user experience. If you just copy or just flip the website and it looks exactly the same except for the fact that there's translated text in it, some users just will not grab this information. If you look at big corporate websites, you always see, for example, there are different pictures of women attracting. Well, that's a very simple thing. People here in Greece have a different way of thinking what is a nice person than people, for example, in Finland. And you need to adopt these things if you like to have a chance to really attract your audience again. This is one of the most famous websites which is built by Joomla. This website is still Joomla. This website was in the beginning with about these 14 and 15 languages, also based on JoomFish. Meanwhile, they separated these websites. The websites are actually different instances now with a technique to share the information among the websites, and they're not using JoomFish anymore. The primary reason for that split is performance. This is a topic when you really need to think about your sites as well. If you have a high-load website like the UN website, you definitely come to the point when it's more important for you to be performance and to have control over what your server capabilities are than to have fancy techniques to synchronize your translations and everything. So sometimes separation of these information, separation of the website supports you in the overall performance system, in the overall management of your website as a whole. And this is something which is not bad. There are techniques how you can share content among these sites still, so that's not the big deal, and also doing the translation process, that's not much more complicated than you do it before. Now we came back to this, what I said before, and I don't know if you grab what is wrong in this picture here or in this image. Well, actually, this is a nice interior of a nice car with a left wheel steering. If you look at the URL, this is a website in Thailand. Thailand has driving on the left side, so their wheels are typically on the right side. like in the UK. If you present this information this way to a customer, I as a customer in Thailand, like an English, a German person come to Thailand would think, oh yeah, clear, logical. For me it's logical, I'll get a left wheel steering because that's what I get here in Germany or in Greece as well. Well, when I come to the dealer afterwards, after I've ordered my car and everything, and he presents me a car with right wheel steering, I might be confused. So really be aware of this fact. It's not only what you write in your website, it's not only about the text you have there. It's about the images, it's about every kind of information, like product descriptions, like product colors, sizes, and everything. All these things are important if you translate a website, and that's something an automated translation system is not able to do anymore. From a very simple thing, I've been asked, I think at least twice a week, is it important, how can I avoid duplicated content if I have a multilingual website? Forget it. You have maybe heard Theo before, who was presenting a lot about the SEO things, and he told you, don't worry about these things. Google as the search engine is very good capable of translating. They will identify your duplicated content, even if you try to hide it from them. So don't worry. The only thing, what is happening here and what we do, for example, with JoomFish quite well, we ensure the structure is exactly the same as you have in both languages, for example. In this way, Google will understand this is a duplicated content, but it's not a duplication, it's a translation. And based on this information, Google is not rating you down. It's not rating you up either, but it's not rating you down. Normally people are scared about being rated down because of duplicating content. Well, it's all on your side, it's the same structure, it's just a different kind of language you provide to your customers. And that's something which is in fact good for your customers, and the Google engine is the second part of the customer at that point. That's personal opinion from myself. Do not try to confuse your people with forcing them into something special. People ask me very often, how can I avoid that if a user with, for example, an English browser comes to the website and sees it automatically in English. I want them to see the website in Italian or Greek or whatever language first. Yes, it's possible to do so in JoomFish. You can configure that. However, this is a customer who has either downloaded an English version of the browser or even configured that his preferred language is English. So why do you force him to use a click in your website to switch to English again just because you want him to see the website in Greece first? This doesn't make sense. So your customer naturally tries to do certain things, and some skilled customers try to be skilled and use the tools they have. So allow them to use these tools and don't make it over complex to switch the languages or hide things. Your customers will be confused by these things, and the confusion will not help. Typically, if you come to a website by Google and you just click on the Google link, it's the first, I think, 5 or 10 seconds until people decide to stay on your website or your website is left already. So if you're confusing your customer in these 5 to 10 seconds, he very likely will leave and go to the next website in the list of Google. The other thing, what I've seen quite often is people trying to copy everything and really to ensure that the whole site is copied as a complete whole, just for the sake that they can say everything is translated and everything is being available in 2 languages. Yes, you can go through the effort, but the effort is not to do it the first time. The effort is to maintain this information. So be very careful in not going over the top and trying to maintain that at all time, because then you will have a lot of work, which is continuous work whenever you update your website. what you can do, make use of the menu structure. The menu is a very, very powerful system we have in Joomla. A lot of people are misunderstanding and saying, okay, yeah, the menu is just the presentation. No, the menu is actually the navigational structure you can give to your customers. The UN website we had shown before, it has about 20 different menu types. So 20 different menus. From these 20 different menus, 14 are different language menus, just only for this one specific language. They use a template to decide which of these menu types being visible, and using the menu type, or the menu system, they have a very, very strong and powerful system to control the structure they present in one specific language. So you don't need to have fancy systems or add-ons like the ones we provide to hide and suppress the menu system in one big menu. No, you can also do that differently. And the second part you can do with the menu is you can, by translating the menu items, you can link to different sections and categories. So if you have a news block on one of the menu items, and you think about, oh, that's going to be quite complicated to translate all the different news in different, and then maybe I want to have some news only visible in Greek, others only visible in English, well, you can just split them. And if you use, for example, K2, you can combine different sections and categories. You can have one general section, which is only categories. Yeah. So you have one category, which is the combined overall category for all of the languages, and then you have language-dependent categories, and you just select them during your translation. You have a very simple system of controlling what the user is going to see and what not. And using these menu links and the power of the menu system from Joomla is very helpful for you to present the correct information to your customer. The last thing here is specialized information per language. The specialized information attracts customers. So when I see information about Germany inside a website from Greece, that, for example, a German prominent member was here in a hotel, I think, oh, damn, that's cool. This guy was here. I know this guy because I know him from the press. But if there's someone from the US looking at the website and he looks at the English version of your website and sees there was some Brad Pitt here on your website, in your hotel, he will also say, oh, wow, I know this guy. But he maybe might know Angela Merkel or someone like that, but he might not know all the prominent people in Germany. So this is something which you really can use, and it's very powerful to attract your audience and to your people. So now it's going to be tricky. For me personally, multilingual sites are really fun. And I like to see many more of them to be available and to let them fly in terms of producing things. I've seen amazing solutions based on JoomFish and multilingual websites, based on Joomla, and I think as stronger we are as an audience, which is not only one language aware like English, but bilingual or even multilingual aware, we can also have a huge impact in the Joomla system, in the Joomla ecosphere, as well in the Joomla core team and all the other people. There's a lot of things which is being driven by Europe because of us being quite different than the US and other people. That's it from my side. Questions? No questions.
This is?
Who's using JoomFish? Are you happy with? Who's happy with JoomFish? Kind of. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
In first time I used JoomFish, I made something wrong, I think. So I want your advice. So I have a Greek website. I installed JoomFish, and I installed two languages, Greek and English. Now, when I write a new article, I have to in order to see in my Greek website, I have to choose translate to Greek, even if it's the same.
No. Actually, this is an issue which people confuses, but you don't need to translate to Greek. You define your Greek website as being Greek as what we call the default language. So all the information which is in this so-called default language, you add to the article manager of Joomla. And you write it there in Greek. So you have the original Greek already. It doesn't make sense to translate into Greek.
To Greek, yeah.
So you can view your website with JoomFish and it will be Greek, no problems. Now, if you go to the translation manager from JoomFish and translate the same article into English, JoomFish will allow you to switch between these two languages. The issue what we had was that in some circumstances, people having multiple articles in different languages in the same article manager from Joomla. So you can even write an English article into the article manager of Joomla and afterwards translate it to Greek. And then still, JoomFish will be able to show either the Greek or the English version and in the correct selection. So to make this possible, there is a possibility within JoomFish that you can translate actually into Greek. But typically, in the typical standard scenario, you are not doing that. So delete all your Greek translations because they will only create conflicts if you don't need them in a specific scenario. And there's a parameter inside the JoomFish control panel which allows you to switch off the Greek language inside the selection drop-downs within the administrative interface. So then you can avoid to being confused.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, and congratulations, and welcome to Greece.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, I have a few sites, both languages. Mostly it's Greek and English. I have another one in German, French, English, and another one, I don't remember. Anyway, the main problem that I had was with the title of the site on the window of the Mozilla Pro or whatever. We wanted that to be in every language different.
Yes, of course.
The main problem we had was that we used a free plugin for the title manager, I think it's the name, which had no support from JoomFish. We tried to write something and make it work with JoomFish, but I think it didn't work actually. It was a great problem with that. Have something that works with this? Because
well, actually, there's the first thing is that inside the JoomFish language manager, there you have the possibility to edit your configuration dependent on the language, including the title. So this is where you, in the title manager plugin you're using adds some extended features into the title.
Exactly.
So in your Joomla standard version, if you use the editor from the language manager and edit your configuration, you can translate the website title there. For the standard configuration, that works. I don't know the plugin you're using, but typically what is the issue is only an XML file. Inside the JoomFish administrator package, there's a folder which is called content element, which is a stupid name, but we didn't find a better one. And there are XML files stored which describe the table structure of these tables you want to translate.
Yes.
And the only issue what happens sometimes if the extensions are not using the Joomla database layer correctly and not using it with a correct item ID and ID fields, then you have the conflict that the translations is not done automatically.
I think that was the problem.
Actually, I would patch this extension and then afterwards contribute the patch back to the developer to get that fixed, because that's normally not a big deal. Do you have the extension somewhere downloadable? Well, then we can maybe fix that right away. It's typically not a big deal.
Thank you very much.
So the content element files are those who are controlling the mapping between the database information stored in what we show in the website.
Hello, my name is George. If you have a translated menu item and then you change the menu type, then in translation I can't change the menu type from the translation window.
You can.
Yes, because JoomFish think that it doesn't get the change.
It doesn't know.
And again, the
point is that if the original is being automatically created, you have the original menu, the menu type, everything included in there. And the menu type actually is being stored within Joomla in the URL field.
Yes.
So there's no specific field which stores the menu type, it's just inside the URL. In the standard configuration of JoomFish, we allow you to translate that URL, and when you create a translation first time, we copy everything from the original to ensure that the menu type and everything is in sync. But afterwards, as I said before, it could be possible that you have two different menu types in different languages. So after the first translation, we are not automatically updating this information anymore,
yes,
but you can do it manually.
Yes, but when I try to change the menu type and in the translation, the drop-down box is said it is, and it doesn't. It's not a click-on.
There's on the very down, just starting the website. On the very down, there is a copy for the URL link. You just need to copy this URL and you're done.
Okay.
Ερώτηση. Thank you, Alex.
I have one more question.
Yes, please.
Let us not discuss about Joomla 1.6 and future releases. But what is the most important feature you would like to see within JoomFish? None?
The translation module will be working with Ajax.
With Ajax?
Ajax, yes. Not refreshing the page. Translating the types in the same without refreshing the page.
You mean the translation editor, when you edit a translation?
When you
No,
change the last
you can't do that. You can do that.
Why
You
not?
cannot do that because it's not about JoomFish only. The content would have to change on all components and modules. Then it's not JoomFish.
What?
What he meant is that you have, when you switch languages, instead of just refreshing the page, you just see the content being changed to the other language.
In the front end?
Yeah.
In the front end?
Yes.
It would be a nice idea, but it's
Well, you could actually do that.
a bit rocket science for now.
You just need to make a call and then override your DOM model.
But it should be implemented on all components as well, and modules,
Yeah, you make a
plugins.
call to your website again, just override the DOM afterward. It could be possible. That's a bit crazy, okay. Anything else?
Okay, in the translation manager, you don't have actually any filtering. So if I have a website with 1,000 articles and I'm trying to find just one article to refresh its translation, I can do that. I have to go to Joomla's article manager, find it there, and then click on the translate. So is it possible to have filters?
We do have filters in the translation manager.
Why don't I see them?
I don't know. Well, inside the translation overview, if you go there,
Yeah.
after you selected the language and the
I
content,
cannot filter by the title of the article.
there's a search for the title. There's a search field for the title as well.
Okay, it never displays on my site. So
That's right.
obviously I'm doing something wrong. Right?
Yeah, well, yes, we do have
Using
that.
Joomla 1.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So yeah, it's there. I don't want. I need to do that differently. So, I don't know why it takes so long. Yes. So after you select the language and content, there's here the keyword selection. So there you can type in title name and get only one unit. There's a possibility to configure them, and we will make them a little bit more Ajax style and be a bit more interactive, so that's going to be simplified.
Last question. I would like to have not the translation manager, but the translation in the content of, not Joomla, because I don't use the Joomla content manager, I use K2 from Fotis.
Right.
So he's here, so you could maybe...
Well, we have that already.
You have it by K2?
Yeah.
So if I want to translate the K2 item, I just press English in the K2 and it becomes English.
Well,
I don't have to leave the item to go to the translation manager.
there's a possibility that you can directly out K2 translate things. What we're talking about and what we're trying to get achieved in one of the next steps is that we have some kind of tab translation. I don't know. Have you ever seen JoomFish?
Yes.
CCK? They do have this that you can select languages on top of it. They actually also control JoomFish in the backend. Something similar we are talking together to try to get this implemented in one of the next versions.
Because this is the main problem we have with customers. They're confused enough with the content system for Joomla, and then they have to learn also how to translate all the articles, and that content means articles, because then he has to find out exactly what Nicola said. He gotta find the article that he wants to translate, and it's a little bit confusing for people that don't have much experience with the Joomla. So it would be more simple.
I've not installed the K2 here, but actually what you can always use also in K2 is the kind of translation system here on the top,
Yeah.
which after you started it opens just a modal window for you to do the translation right away. So that's the first step to simplify this a little bit.
Okay.
The second step is in progress.
Okay, thank you.
Why is it so slow?
DNS propagation. You have something like a subdomain, like a domain.
Yeah, of course.
It takes time to resolve the host name in the
No.
network.
It's in the
It's
etc
local,
host.
but it's
It's etc host. It knows which IP address this is. Yep. We have more minutes. We have more time, so happy to answer questions.
I want to ask you if JoomFish has the possibility to translate, for example, a virtual map in the front end. Because virtual map has the possibility to change the content, the products in the front end.
In general, it is possible. We have not implemented
It's
that.
difficult, I think so, but...
No, it's not that difficult. Well, we limited our translation process to just only add stuff being edited as content items, so articles, inside the front end, just to ensure that the user is not being confused. However, for example, K2 or also JoomFish have implemented their versions of doing the front-end translation directly. So in that case, it is something which needs to be implemented into Virtumar. What we will provide is we will provide Virtual a better adapter and interface to interact with JoomFish more easily to get these things done. But this is something where we as the translation management component will try to stay away a little bit because we don't know exactly the work process they have in the translation or in the front-end editing. Okay.
Τελευταία ερώτηση.
Thank you for being
Θερμό χειροκρότημα για τον Άλεξ Κempkens.